And presidential historian Doug Wead interviewed America's 40th president many times. He is the author of Reagan in Pursuit of the Presidency, and we're glad to have him with us today. Doug, welcome. Good to speak with you.
Thanks, Martha. Thank you, Martha.
We're so busy sort of analyzing how President Obama is handling this current situation that's unfolding in Egypt. And you made some very interesting observations about what's going on there now and sort of the what would Reagan do question as we look at this situation.
Yeah, I actually have a column in Newsmax this morning about that, and Reagan was not very impressed with street crowds or mobs in the streets because the communists would use that tactic in the Cold War, and as soon as they would come to power, the first thing they do would arrest all the organizers of the street crowd. So, and he made the comment that he felt that we had made a mistake in abandoning the Shah of Iran, and he loved this quote from FDR, that sometimes you have to walk with the devil to cross the bridge. Roosevelt used that to justify our alliance with Stalin against a worse enemy, Hitler, and Reagan would use that quote to justify our alliance sometimes with dictators to win the Cold War. In fact, one of those allies was Hosni Mubarak.
Indeed, and I think we have some pictures of Ronald Reagan and other past presidents with Hosni Mubarak standing side by side with him. You know, it's a very difficult situation. There it is that we see playing out here. Hosni Mubarak was, you know, seated near Anwar Sadat when he was assassinated by radical Islamists who wanted to take over Egypt, and now Hosni Mubarak is faced with, you know, the same sort of, well, an element of that uprising. There's a lot of secularists in this crowd as well who just simply want a change of government. But it raises the question, as you point out, you know, how does a president respond if you haven't been unhappy with someone's leadership or you've been okay with it enough to stand by? What is it about the crowds that would suddenly make you change your allegiance toward that leader?
Yeah, it's hypocritical. I mean, if we have a crowd in Washington, will Obama leave? You know, that's not democracy, really, or freedom. And
of course we would not, right? You know,
you would not.
We would not.
We've had them, and you would not. And so I think Reagan would be very circumspect about this, and he kept things simple. He's very strategic in his thinking. I think right now, if Reagan were in power, he'd have his diplomats officially and unofficially whispering in salons in Syria and Iran that Saudi Arabia is off limits, that this country that is so strategically important to the whole world, there'd be chaos in the world if it was undermined. I think Reagan would be sending the message, nobody touches. This is a stable government that has served its people well for many generations. It stops here. I think that's the sort of simplicity he would bring to this crisis right now.
Yeah, very interesting perspective, Doug, and it's an interesting article. Thank you very much for joining us today. Doug Wead, presidential historian.
Nice discussion.